Have you ever reached for a glass of water only to notice your hand trembling? Maybe you've blamed it on getting older. Maybe someone even joked. But what if they're wrong? Here's something most people over 65 don't realize. Many hand tremors have nothing to do with Parkinson's disease. In fact, some of the most common causes are often overlooked, misdiagnosed, or simply dismissed as normal aging. The scary part: small tremor that's easy to ignore today could be your body's way of telling you that something needs attention. It might be related to a vitamin deficiency, a medication you're taking every day, an overactive thyroid, or another condition that deserves a closer look. That's why in today's video, we're going to uncover the most common causes of hand tremors after 65, explain how they differ from Parkinson's, and reveal the warning signs you should never ignore. Because understanding why your hands are shaking could be one of the most important health decisions you make this year. Let me start by telling you something that might surprise you. Hand tremors are incredibly common after 65. I mean, really common. If I had to guess, I'd say that somewhere between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 people in your age group experiences some level of hand shaking. But here's where the disconnect happens. Most people experience a tremor, immediately think it's something catastrophic, and never actually talk to anyone about it. They suffer in silence because they're terrified of what they might hear. The first thing you need to understand is that there are actually several different types of hand tremors, and they feel and look completely different. This matters because how a tremor looks tells your doctor a lot about what's causing it. Some tremors happen when your hands are resting in your lap. Some only happen when you're actually trying to do something, like reaching for a glass or holding something steady. Some are barely noticeable and some are pretty dramatic. The characteristics of your tremor are clues, and those clues point in specific directions. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room right away because I know this is what you're thinking about. Parkinson's disease does cause a tremor. That's true. But here's what a Parkinson's tremor actually looks like. It's classically a tremor that happens when your hands are completely at rest. It's a slow, rhythmic shaking. It often looks like the person is rolling a small pill between their fingers, and doctors actually call it a pill-rolling tremor because of exactly that reason. It's very distinctive, and importantly, Parkinson's tremors usually start on one side of the body first. Your right hand might shake for months before your left hand gets involved. But here's where most people get confused. The majority of hand tremors in people over 65 are not resting tremors at all. They're called action tremors or essential tremors. And they happen when you're actually moving or holding something up against gravity. They show up when you're reaching for your water glass. They show up when you're trying to button your shirt. They show up when you're writing something down. This is a completely different beast from Parkinson's, and once you understand that, a huge weight comes off your shoulders, essential tremor, which is the most common type of tremor we see in people your age, something you've probably heard about without even realizing it. It runs in families. If your parents had shaky hands, there's a good chance you might develop it too. It's not a sign of weakness, and it's not a sign that anything is seriously wrong with your nervous system. It's just the way your neuromuscular system is wired. Some people are wired to be left-handed. Some people are wired to be tall. Some people are wired to have slightly more excitable neurons in certain parts of their motor system, and that shows up as a tremor. The other thing people don't realize is how much everyday things can make a tremor worse, even if that tremor isn't from anything serious. If you've had an extra cup of coffee in the morning, your tremor is going to be noticeably worse. Caffeine does that. It makes your hands shake, even if you don't have an underlying tremor condition. Stress does the same thing. If you're anxious about something, that tremor is going to be more pronounced. Lack of sleep, illness, even certain medications you might be taking for completely unrelated conditions like blood pressure or heart problems, they can all make your hands shake. This is actually really important information because it means that sometimes what feels like a sudden development might actually just be your tremor becoming more noticeable because of these temporary factors. Maybe you've been under stress. Maybe you've increased your coffee consumption. Maybe you've just been paying more attention to your hands lately, and now that you're looking for it, you notice it more. The tremor might have been there all along, but you're noticing it now for the first time, and that can feel alarming. Here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to think about when you first noticed this. Was it all of a sudden? Or have your hands maybe been slightly shaky for a while, and something just made you pay attention to it now? Was it during a stressful time? Had you just started drinking more coffee? Or had you just gotten back from the doctor and were worried about something? These details matter. They help your doctor figure out what's actually happening. Let me tell you about something that happens to a lot of people over 65, and it's something that genuinely affects how their hands function. It's called orthostatic tremor, and I want you to be aware of it because it's frequently misdiagnosed or completely missed. This is a tremor that specifically happens when you're standing up. It's high frequency, so it's very fast, and it's usually in your legs more than your hands, but it can definitely affect your arms and hands too. People with orthostatic tremor often describe a feeling of unsteadiness when they're standing, almost like they're standing on a vibrating platform. And then as soon as they sit down, it stops. It's one of those things where people don't realize that what they're experiencing is actually a recognized condition. Then there's something called neuropathic tremor, and this one comes from nerve damage. If you've had diabetes for a long time, or if you have neuropathy for any reason, nerve damage can actually cause your hands to shake. This is one of those secondary effects that people don't always connect to the original problem. They think, oh, I have diabetes and I have nerve damage in my feet, but they don't realize that nerve damage can also show up as tremors in your hands. This is particularly important because if this is what's causing your tremor, there are specific things your doctor can do to help manage the underlying neuropathy, which might improve the tremor as a side effect. There's also something called enhanced physiologic tremor, and this is actually really interesting. Every single person has a tiny, nearly invisible tremor all the time. It's just part of how your nervous system works. But certain things can enhance that normal tremor and make it visible. We already talked about caffeine and stress, but there's also thyroid disease. Your thyroid controls your metabolism, and if your thyroid is overactive, that can definitely make your hands shake noticeably. This is actually really common in older adults, and it's completely treatable. Now, let me tell you about something that surprises a lot of people. Certain medications can cause hand tremors as a side effect. If you're taking lithium for mood disorders, some ADHD medications can do it. Certain asthma medications, particularly some of the older ones, can definitely cause shaking hands. Some antidepressants can make it worse. The point I'm making is that if you recently started a new medication and your tremor got worse around the same time, that's a really important detail to tell your doctor. It might be as simple as adjusting your dose or switching to a different medication. Here's something else that people don't talk about enough. Alcohol use and withdrawal can cause tremors. I'm not just talking about the shakes you get if you're going through serious alcohol withdrawal. Long-term heavy alcohol use can actually damage your nervous system and cause tremors that stick around even when you're not drinking. And then on the flip side, if someone is a long-term heavy drinker and they suddenly stop, the withdrawal can cause very noticeable tremors. This is a delicate situation that really needs medical supervision, but the point is that if alcohol is part of your story, that's something your doctor needs to know. Another common cause that gets overlooked is low blood sugar. If you're diabetic and your blood sugar dips too low, one of the first things that happens is your hands start to shake. You might also feel sweaty, anxious, or heart palpitations. Your body is going into a fight or flight response because it's not getting enough glucose. This is why if you're diabetic and you notice tremors, one of the first things to check is whether your blood sugar is actually stable. If it's not, that's your primary problem to solve. Now let me talk about something that affects a lot of people and is often completely missed. Magnesium deficiency. Magnesium is absolutely crucial for nerve and muscle function. If your magnesium levels are low, your muscles can become hyperactive, and that shows up as tremors. Shaky hands, twitching, muscle cramps, these can all be signs of low magnesium. The problem is that standard blood tests don't always catch magnesium deficiency because magnesium is stored in your bones and cells, not just floating around in your bloodstream. So someone can have a normal magnesium level on their blood test and still be genuinely deficient. This is something a really good doctor will investigate, especially if other obvious causes have been ruled out. Then there's Parkinson's disease, and I want to give this the attention it deserves because I know it's on your mind. Parkinson's is a neurological condition where certain brain cells that produce dopamine start to die off. This causes progressive problems with movement and coordination. The classic signs are rigidity, slowness of movement, balance problems, and that distinctive resting tremor we talked about earlier. But here's what's important. Parkinson's is not something that just suddenly appears and makes your hands shake for no reason. It's progressive, meaning it gets worse over time. It usually starts on one side. It comes with other symptoms like stiffness, slowness, balance problems. It's not just about the tremor. If you have a tremor and nothing else, if your hands shake but your movements are normal, your balance is fine, your reflexes are good, you're not slow or stiff, then Parkinson's is much lower on the list of possibilities. A doctor can do specific tests to check for Parkinson's if they're genuinely concerned, but if your only symptom is a tremor, there's probably something else going on. This is where I want you to feel that sense of relief we talked about at the beginning. So, now that you know what your tremor probably isn't, let me tell you what you should actually do about it. And this starts with a conversation with your doctor. I know. That seems obvious. But you'd be surprised how many people never actually tell their doctor about this. They're either embarrassed, or they're scared of what they'll hear, or they just don't think it's worth mentioning. But your doctor needs to know. More importantly, they need to know the details. When you talk to your doctor about your tremor, here's what you need to tell them. First, when did it start? Was it sudden or gradual? Second, when do you notice it most? Is it when you're resting or when you're doing something? Third, has it gotten worse over time or has it stayed about the same? Fourth, is there anything that makes it better or worse? Does caffeine make it worse? Does stress, does rest help? Fifth, are there any other symptoms? Stiffness, slowness, balance problems, rigidity? Sixth, what medications are you taking? This is crucial. Many medications can cause tremors. And seventh, has anyone in your family had tremor problems? These details help your doctor narrow down the cause, and depending on what you tell them, they might want to do some tests. A thyroid test is super common and simple. They might check your blood sugar. They might check your magnesium and other micronutrient levels. They might do some neurological tests to check your reflexes and coordination. These are all straightforward, non-invasive things that can point toward a specific cause. Now, here's something important that I think a lot of people miss. Even if you get diagnosed with essential tremor or some other non-serious cause for your hands shaking, there are actually things you can do about it. You don't just have to live with it. This is where people often feel defeated, but you don't need to. If it's caffeine, cutting back on coffee might help. If it's stress, addressing your stress through exercise, meditation, or counseling might genuinely improve your tremor. If it's medication related, your doctor might be able to adjust your dose or switch you to something else. If it's thyroid disease, treating your thyroid will help. If it's low blood sugar, managing your diabetes better will reduce the tremor. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even if the cause of your tremor is essential tremor, which is genetic and not something you can cure, there are legitimate medical treatments that can help reduce the shakiness. Beta blockers, which are medications used for blood pressure, can actually reduce essential tremor in a lot of people. Certain anti-seizure medications can help too. Some people find relief with propranolol specifically. If you have essential tremor and it's affecting your quality of life, this is something you can ask your doctor about. There's also something called deep brain stimulation for severe Parkinson's tremor. But that's only relevant if you actually have Parkinson's, and we've already established that your tremor probably isn't Parkinson's. But the point is that modern medicine has options. You're not stuck. There are things that can be done. Now let me talk about lifestyle things that might help reduce your tremor right now, without waiting for a doctor's appointment or getting on medications. First, reduce your caffeine intake. If you're a coffee drinker, try cutting back to 1 cup a day or switching to decaf. You might be shocked at how much this helps. I've seen people where reducing coffee was the answer to almost everything. Second, reduce stress. This sounds simple, but it's powerful. Stress literally makes tremors worse through your nervous system's fight or flight response. Exercise is one of the best stress reducers. A daily walk, tai chi, yoga, swimming, these are all excellent for reducing both stress and tremor. Third, make sure you're sleeping enough. Sleep deprivation makes tremor worse. Aim for 7 to 8 hours. Fourth, make sure you're eating well and staying hydrated. Dehydration can make tremors worse. Poor nutrition can too. Fifth, Limit alcohol. Alcohol is tricky because in the short term, it can actually reduce tremor, but long-term heavy use makes it worse. Let me talk specifically about exercise because this one has real science behind it. Exercise is genuinely one of the best things you can do for tremor reduction. It helps in multiple ways. It reduces stress hormones like cortisol. It improves sleep quality. It strengthens your overall nervous system resilience. It improves blood sugar control, stabilizes your mood, and reduces anxiety. All of these contribute to reducing tremor. The best exercise is something you'll actually do consistently. If you hate running, don't run. If you love walking, walk. If you enjoy water aerobics, do that. The magic isn't in the specific exercise. It's in the consistency and the fact that you're moving your body regularly. I also want to mention something about how you hold your hands during daily activities. Sometimes tremor management is just about being smarter with how you do things. If your hands shake when you reach for things, you can often stabilize by using your other hand or by leaning your arm on something. If you're shaking when you're holding a cup, using a mug with a handle gives you more stability than holding a smooth cup. If you're having trouble writing, using a pen with a thicker grip can help. These aren't cures, but they're practical ways to work around the tremor while you're addressing the underlying cause. I want to come back to something I said at the very beginning because I think it's really important. That fear you felt when you first noticed your hand shaking. I want you to understand that fear is normal and actually productive. Fear made you pay attention. Fear made you care about your health. But here's what I want to tell you now. Fear without knowledge leads to catastrophic thinking. You're going to imagine the worst case scenario. But fear plus knowledge leads to action. It leads to you going to your doctor, getting answers, understanding what's actually happening, and taking steps to do something about it. The reality is that the vast majority of people who experience hand tremors after 65 do not have Parkinson's disease. They have something else, something that's either very manageable or something where there are clear things you can do to improve the situation. And once you know that, once you have that knowledge, the tremor becomes a lot less scary. It becomes a problem you can solve instead of a disaster you're waiting to happen. I also want you to know that you're not alone in this. Tremor is common. Shaky hands affect millions of people. But for some reason, we don't talk about it. People suffer in silence when they don't have to. Your doctor has dealt with this hundreds of times. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to think less of you. They're going to want to help you figure out what's going on. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to call your doctor this week and make an appointment. When you make that appointment, mention the tremor. Tell them when it started, when you notice it most, if anything makes it better or worse. If you have a family history of tremor, mention that. If you've changed your medications or your caffeine intake around the time it started, mention that. If you're dealing with stress, mention that. These details are your tools. They help your doctor help you. And while you're waiting for that appointment, start paying attention to your tremor. Write down when it's worse and when it's better. Does it happen more in the morning, more in the evening, after coffee, after stress, after you haven't slept well? These patterns are valuable information. Doctors love specific details because specific details point to specific causes. I also want to encourage you to take care of yourself in the meantime. Get good sleep. Reduce stress where you can. Take a daily walk. Cut back on caffeine if you're drinking a lot of it. Stay hydrated. Eat well. These are all things that might genuinely help, and even if they don't completely solve the tremor, they're going to make you feel better overall. You're going to have better energy, better mood, better sleep. That matters independent of whether your hands stop shaking. And remember this, your body is not betraying you. Your body is communicating with you. Tremor is a signal. It's telling you that something needs attention. That's not bad. That's your body doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Your job is to listen to that signal, to get answers about what it means, and to take action. That's it. That's the whole process. The future is not written. You don't know what this tremor means until you actually talk to a doctor. But I can tell you with confidence that for the vast majority of people in your situation, it's not the catastrophic thing you're afraid it might be. It's something manageable, something that has solutions. And once you know that, you can breathe, you can move forward, you can actually enjoy your life instead of worrying about your hands. If this video has been helpful to you, if you've learned something that makes you feel a little bit better about this, I want to ask you to like it and subscribe to this channel. There are so many health topics that affect people your age, and most of them don't get the attention they deserve. I'm here to change that. I'm here to talk about the things that matter to you. So subscribing means you'll get these videos in your feed, and you won't miss the next one that might have exactly the information you need. And if you have tremor experience that you'd like to share, or if you've been through this worry and come out the other side, please leave a comment. Your experience might help someone else who's watching this video right now and feeling scared and alone. Your story could be the thing that gives them the courage to call their doctor and actually get answers. You've got this. Your hands might shake, but your mind is clear. Your future is not determined by a tremor. It's determined by how you respond to it. So respond with action. Respond with curiosity. Respond with the knowledge that you're going to get answers, and those answers are probably going to be better than you're imagining right now. I'll see you in the next video.